open your eyes, but the light that had been consistently leaking in through the curtains was nowhere to be seen. So, you close your eyes again to rest out the rest of the night in the deep comfort of your bed. Really? You're gonna go back to sleep? It's been a few days. At least, days worth of time. I said there was no light. Have you already forgotten one of the few rules? Get the hell up! It's dark outside! That's more like it. Realization hits you like a truck. It was night. Nicole's words echo in your head.
We don't have a day and night cycle, so if it gets suddenly dark outside, don't open any doors or windows, and find me immediately.
Your whispered expletive is heard only by the narrator as you hurry to the door of your room and look out. The hallway was dark, unsettlingly so. It was never dark. Every time you awoke and every time you went to sleep, it was the same level of light outside and inside. The darkness, though, it was oppressive, chilling, like it was drawing the warmth from your own body. The feeling of drowsiness was urging you back to your bed. Sleep was the best thing. You'll feel better, right? Wait, what? No, stop that. Get the hell up. Something is wrong, and you can feel it, idiot. If you go back to sleep, you'll die. Good. Now, you walk out of your room. The weight of your body felt heavy, like you weighed more than you should. And it felt like the walk to the lobby was much further away than it should be. You could hardly see through the darkness of the inn when you finally made it to the lobby. Eerie was the best way to describe it. There was no sound except the occasional creak of wood. When you called out into the room, the sound of your voice was so loud, even though you spoke in a level tone, though tense with concern. Nicole never answered your call. It was strange to not see Walter cleaning his glass behind the bar, or Faye not reading or throwing a ball at the wall or some other pastime. Either way, you walk further into the lobby before you suddenly trip over something on the floor. It moved with the impact of your foot before you fell to the ground, and when you turned to try and see what it was, your heart jolted into your throat. It was an arm. You followed the pale length to a torso. Faye was laying unconscious on the ground, as if she fell asleep on her chair and hit the floor. She actually looked rather comfortable. You could lay down on the floor, too, curl up with a rug or... No, stop thinking that way. We can't sleep. Check on her. When you crawl over, you check her pulse and breathing. She appears to be just sleeping, though she has a slight bump on her head from hitting the floor. You take her shoulder and try to shake her awake, and she, thankfully, makes a small groan as she starts to come to. What the hell? Kid? Her groggy awakening turned to a sudden jolting as she bolted upright and gave herself a sudden slap across her own face. Fuck! Oh, it's dark. Shit. Kid, where's Nikki? Or Shade? She questioned you as if you knew anything except that it was dark outside. When you tell her you don't know, she scrambles to her feet, soon dragging you up off the strangely comfortable floor. Don't sleep. Stay awake. Faye ordered before she ran off and looked around the bar before diving behind it, calling out,
"Walter! Wake up! Walter! Walter!"
before she bolted back up and looked around as you stumbled over to look over the side of the bar. Walter was lounging back against the wall, hands on either side of him on the floor, with his glass still lingering in his palm. His head was hanging over his chest, before there was a sudden splash as Faye dropped a pitcher of icy water over his smooth head.
"Walter!"
That did the trick. He bolted upright, pale eyes wide in the darkness as he looked around and grunted as he pushed himself to his feet. Still wordless as he turned and started to make a pot of coffee.
"Okay, that's one. We still need to find Shade and Nikki. I need you to go and check her room, quickly. It's at the far end of the hallway, but you need to focus on getting there or you'll be walking for hours, okay? Go, now."
She did not elaborate before she ran off and vanished down into the basement. Apparently, you're the only one not allowed in the fucking basement. Not the time to focus on that. You do your best to rush on groggy legs back through the room to the hallway, and you open the door. The door at the far end of the hallway was just hardly able to be seen through the darkness, but you can see it. You walk, tired, sleepy. You can't remember ever feeling so tired, which isn't saying much, actually. You really can't remember anything still. The hollowness of your mind sort of reminds you of the dark version of the inn. You are reaching so far, but still not grasping anything. Much like how you had been walking in the hall, but the door didn't come any closer. Right, Faye said to focus on the door, or you'll never make it. Okay, look only at the door. It's hard for you to focus through the grogginess of the sleepy feeling you had, but as you looked at the door, noting its features and the shape through the darkness, you notice your steps start to bring you closer, enough to grasp the handle and pull it open. The room on the other side was much larger than the inn appeared to be on the outside. The towering walls were covered in books with small flickers of candles here and there. An ornate bed resting on a lifted section of the room up a set of stairs. But when you got there, the bed was empty, just like the rest of the room. Nicole wasn't there, or Shade. Getting back to the lobby was easier than getting to the room, and when you stumble in, Faye burst back in as well from the basement. And Walter was chugging a large mug of coffee, with more mugs resting on the counter.
"She wasn't there. Shit. Fuck, this is very bad."
Faye, the usual chaotic bundle, was not holding it together well, it appears. She rushed to the bar, taking one of the mugs and drinking it down quickly. You decide it must be a good idea to follow suit, and you take one of the mugs of black coffee and drink it down to try and help you stay awake. After you gasp for breath, you finally speak your question to Faye.
"You aren't going to like it. And if we don't find Nikki and Shade as soon as possible, we're all fucked."
Well, that wasn't comforting. Walter did not speak, of course, but he lifted a hand and pointed to the door.
"Right. She's not inside. She must be outside. That's very bad. Even worse, actually."
When you ask if you should go outside to look for her, Faye jolted, quickly shaking her head no.
"Hell no. Don't you dare go outside. Not yet, anyway. You need to be prepared first. Come on."
You follow Faye away toward a beautiful armoire, but as you walk away, Walter sighs, lowering his head into his hands as he rubs his face, worrying. Faye opens the armoire to show an assortment of random items. Weapons, gems, crystals, all sorts of different things. But the ones that she fished out were not what you expected. When she turned, in her hands were 2 sets of sunglasses, one with vibrant pink frames and dark lenses, and the other with obnoxious blue wings off the side. Is she serious?
Pick one.
She was serious. Okay, go with blue, I guess. I think a simple why would be a good idea.
Look, these were all we had the last time me and Nikki had to deal with this, and only she can enchant something to withstand the darkness. So, take this and put them on now. Sorry, Walter, we only have 2 pairs.
Walter didn't seem too concerned about that, and just waved you both off as he started up more coffee.
Okay, this is... well, we call it the darkness, and it's a right bitch. We have to find either Nikki or Shade. Either of them would do, but when you go out there, do not take off your glasses, okay? There will be things out there. Things that urge you to take them off. Do not do it. I promise you. It will be the last thing you regret. You're starting to feel like you're being volunteered for something and you don't want to be a part of it. But also that you don't have much of a choice. So you put the interesting choice of glasses on. Through the lenses, the oppressive darkness of the room actually lightened up a little, like a filter of blue midnight. There. If you find one of them, call out for me. But make sure it's actually one of them. Okay? Let's go.
And with that, Faye rushes out the door. When you followed, the dread that filled your chest was nearly palpable. It had weight. It was not simply dark outside, but it looked like a windstorm of black clouds, with no sound. Faye covered her face and held the glasses on as she rushed out, and you did the same. The draining cold you felt got suddenly far worse. The warmth from the coffee had helped, but now it was like ice leached at your skin as you ran the opposite way of Faye. Your calls into the soundless storm for Nicole or Shade were not returned, but you could hear Faye calling out a distance away. In the swirling darkness, a form can be seen walking toward you, giving you pause. It was familiar, so you assumed it must be Nicole. Who else would you recognize? Her features became visible through the darkness, and she gave you a relieved look.
Hey, kid! Oh, thank goodness you're okay. I need those glasses quick. I can't fight this thing off without them.
You trust Nicole, so it's no surprise when you reach up to take off your glasses for her. Hey, don't you dare take them off. Think first.
Come on, kid. I need those, please.
She sounded convincing, for sure. The urgency in her voice was heavy and desperate, but something felt off. Could it be that she was awake, and everyone else was asleep when you found them? Maybe. But maybe she was special. She was some big, powerful witch or something after all. But no, it was something else.
We don't have much time. The darkness is going to swallow up the inn and destroy everything if I don't stop it. Kid, hand over the glasses.
That was it. Kid. She called you Kid. Never once had Nicole called you that. In fact, she thought it was a stupid thing for Faye to call you that in the first place. When you take a wary step backward, the expression on the facsimile of Nicole turned into a blank look of no emotion. It was chilling to see, but it quickly turned horrific when the skin of her face started to sink into her skull, as if decomposing extremely quickly right before your eyes. Her hand, fingers turning bony as she reached out toward you. Nope, that was enough. You started to run, trying not to trip over the various items sticking out of the ground here and there. Your calls for Nicole turned more frantic. which I think no one would blame you, until you noticed another shape in the darkness. This one, though, was slumped down into the sand, unmoving, small. You ran up to the fluffy form of Shade and dropped to your knees. His fur ruffled wildly in the soundless wind, and he was sleeping, just like the others were. You were always off-put by the cat. His eyes that were full of a higher cognition than he should have was always a little unsettling. But you had to do something, so you reached out and gave his little body a shake as you spoke his name. He didn't seem to want to wake, so you shook him a little more before...
Shit!
Did that cat just yell shit?
Nicole!
Before you could really ask him, the cat took off into the darkness, leaving you kneeling in the sand. You should probably get up and keep looking for Nicole, or maybe go back inside. Hell if I know. But when you stand, something grasps your shoulder, and you turn around sharply to see the husk version of Nicole. Rotting mouth open and full of the same swirling void around you. Run! Get the fuck out of there! Or punch the thing, I guess. When your fist collides with the thing's cheek, it disintegrates into sand. Good on you. Hell, I didn't expect that. And it seems like you didn't either, as you staggered backward, before turning and running after Shade. Probably the best bet. But instead of finding the cat, as you round the back of the inn, you are flashed by a sudden blue light. It makes you wince, and you look over to see Nicole, straining against the weight of the shadow with Shade standing upon her shoulders. The air around her seemed to vibrate, but before you can discern more, another hand grabs your shoulder. You turn quickly, fist raised.
Whoa there, kid. It's me. It's Faye.
The woman that grabbed you caught your full-on punch like it was nothing. It seemed to be Faye, stupid glasses and all.
It's gonna be fine, but we gotta get back inside now, kid. Come on.
It still feels weird to be called kid by someone that looks to be a late teen or early 20-year-old, but it was also somehow very comforting when you quickly followed her inside. Soon you were both seated before the bar and Walter, who poured you some more coffee. The sound of Nicole fighting back the darkness can be heard in the distance. Faye starts explaining a few things.
Sorry, you had to deal with the darkness so soon, kid. It's really not something I'd prefer for you, but at least you have experience in it now, and know what to do and what it is.
You kindly remind Faye that you have absolutely no idea what just happened, and you're still processing that, for lack of a better term, sand zombie tried to pull your fancy blue sunglasses off.
Oh, right. Well, Nikki is far better at explaining this sort of shit. So, the darkness is this force that seeps into the inn. The inn is the epicenter of this realm, a point of power. Really, the point of power. If the inn is ever overtaken by the darkness, then really everywhere and everything goes to hell in a handbasket quick.
That's a lot. Good thing you've got me, or you would have just passed back out in bed. Oh, sure, you would have gotten up, and then you would have passed out on the floor next to Faye. How about just a nice thank you, narrator? Not so hard, was it?
Are you arguing with the voice in your head? Damn. That's hilarious. She's right, though. The darkness tends to just put us to sleep. Really, we've been lucky for the most part, though Nikki did tell me about a few times when the darkness did take over. Every time it's not a good time. and I know what you're thinking. Why don't you have more help here? Why don't you have a castle or fortress or something here? Well, we don't really have control of that sort of thing. Really, you should talk to Nikki some more about this. I'll probably fuck it up if I try.
I guess you accept what you know so far and just take your coffee in your hand. That is, until you notice the darkness outside starts to lessen, slowly starting to shift to the usual light you've grown used to. Then...
Whew! That was close!
She said with a beaming smile, looking like the entirety of the universe didn't just almost fall into the hands of literal darkness on this casual, whatever day it is.
You'll have to explain a little more about what is going on around here. That's out of my pay grade. But you don't get paid.
Exactly. Faye says callously as she simply walks away from the bar, and Nicole takes her spot while Shay jumps up on the surface in front of her. You are hit with the sudden realization that this cat can actually talk, but that doesn't seem to be the topic of conversation right now.
Sorry about all of this. I promise... I probably should have warned you about it sooner, but there's no way of knowing when the darkness will show up. I didn't expect it, and I didn't think I'd be outside when it did come. So I thought if I just warned you to stay inside, it would be fine until I got around to explaining it. That was careless of me. But I guess you get to know now. The darkness is a force that is the opposite of us. Some would say evil, but it's not so cut and dry, just like this place in general. But, the short of it is, if the darkness controls the inn, then all of the universe will be shifted to darkness. Wars break out, plagues, demons, monsters, all sorts. Now, I'm sure you're aware, these things do happen, but we do what we can to make sure that they don't happen as often by keeping this place clear of the darkness.
The expression she gives you shows that she's trying her best to explain, but you still have questions. She sighs lightly as she lifts her hands to accentuate her explanation.
This place... Imagine the universe and all of time is a galaxy of its own.
Her lifted hands did more than just make a motion. Instead, a display of blue magic lights danced into existence and formed an elegant display of which she spoke.
In its very center is us.
This realm.
Not exactly tangible, not exactly spiritual. A strange mix of both. And in the very center of this realm is the inn.
Her expression shifts into a small smile as you offer more questions. She doesn't seem annoyed by them at all.
Well, it's not always an inn. Like I said, it seems to have chosen to be something nice and welcoming for you. You may see it change sometime. But, it usually is depicted in a way that our minds can comprehend more easily. You see, we influence it, just like the darkness can influence it. Does that make sense?
It did, but your mind swirled with the information, doing its best not to be overloaded.
I know this is a lot for you to process, but don't worry. I know you were put on the spot, but when stuff like this happens in the future, you can just stay in your room. You don't need to feel obligated to act.
Her words were sweet, sincere, but you remember that feeling of when you left your room, that feeling of needing to do something. It felt right to help, so you shook your head, causing Nicole to quirk a brow, a hint of a smile rising on her pinkish lips.
I see. People like you are drawn here, I think. The ones that are always there to help. Me, you, Walter, Alphonse, even Faye. I assume you saw how she acted when things actually went down.
You did. Faye took some quick initiative after you woke her up. Maybe she was more than just a wild card of a person.
Well, for now, we can relax. The darkness has receded and won't return for a while at least. That means we'll just have to see what happens in the future. Or maybe the past.
She gave a small chuckle with a wink at her words.
Either way, I'm curious as to what may come next.